Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this Game.com video we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up over the past 24 or so hours. We're going to be starting the video out with Colourful, and they are working on their first AM4 motherboards, and this is going to be based upon the AMD 400 series chipsets, so we're going to be discussing that. Then we'll move over to the Khronos group, because they are going to be supporting Apple devices, that's right. There will be a variety of open source tools, SDKs, runtime libraries released as part of an ongoing Vulkan Portability initiative, which will once again allow Vulkan applications to run on Apple platforms. Then we'll finish the video off with another piece of Apple news, but this time concerning the iPhone X Plus, because according to Bloomberg there will be 3 new models introduced in 2018. So let's start things out with Colourful. Colourful typically operate in China and generally are known for NVIDIA graphics cards. They've released some SSDs and sometimes also Intel based chipsets as well. But they are looking to release a 400 series AMD chipset, which of course is going to be for the 2nd generation Ryzen. So this means Pinnacle Ridge and Raven Ridge. Although, just to clarify, will also be compatible with the current generation of Ryzen processors known as Summit Ridge. According to the folks over at Tech Power Up, who are citing industry sources as general, we will see the advantage of the support of PCI Express Generation 3.0, because we're going to see 32 Gbps NVMe interfaces. This is either going to be an M2 or U2. And overall are going to start pushing the brand. Now, why do I find this interesting? Well, technically speaking, at the start of the video I said that this is the first AM4 motherboards that have been produced, and that's kind of true. Now, what I mean by that is, first of all, Colourful are typically designed their business around supplying in China. That's not to say that products are not available outside of China, it's just that they're rarer. And there are technically a couple of AM4 motherboards available on their website, and these are certainly pretty looking, but in terms of retail availability, they are basically impossible to get hold of. I think really what the point being here that this is going to be the first time that we see Colourful actually really pushing the AM4 platform, which is a fairly good indicator to me that the company are fairly confident in the chipset in AMD. And I'm curious to see how the platform, and I don't just mean, of course, Colourful's variant, but I mean the AM4 platform with the 2nd generation chipset, is going to compete against the Coffee Lake series from Intel. It'll be a very interesting year. So, now let's begin with the Khronos group. One of the issues that Apple has with its walled garden, while it may be more secure, and actually we discussed that quite in depth with my interview with F-Secure, which I'm currently in the process of editing, there are some issues with it when it comes to production of software, particularly in the graphics side of things. Back in the day, Apple did support OpenGL ES up to version 3.0, but they haven't decided to support OpenGL ES versions later than that, and they also haven't supported Vulkan, which of course is the low-level API, which is, I guess you could say, the successor to OpenGL. Instead, Apple have relied on Metal, which, to its credit, is low-level. The issue is, however, it's essentially just locked down to Apple's ecosystem. And so we come to the Khronos group and their portability initiative. Now this means that we see Valve, Lunar G, the Brenwell Workshop release a myriad of applications which will allow software to be ported to Apple platforms. And Valve have actually released a comparison which allows us to see Dota 2 running on a Mac through Molten VK. And according to Neil Trevitt, who is the Vice President of NVIDIA Mobile Ecosystems and also the Khronos Group President. By the way, there will be an upcoming interview with Neil that he says, looking at his calendar and trying to remember, I believe is taking place on either the 5th or 6th of next month. And that's going to be a very cool interview because we're going to be discussing an awful lot of stuff. Some stuff actually that's not revealed by this press statement. So we'll discuss that in the interview, and I can't say much more, unfortunately. But I can tell you about the press statement here. So, running Vulkan applications on Apple platforms, so this once again is according to Neil, has been the #1 request from developers, and today's release of the Molten VK Runtime and LunarG Mac OS SDK brings that capability to life. Developers are invited to download the open source Vulkan Portability tools today and provide feedback via the Vulkan Ecosystem GitHub issue. The Vulkan Portability initiative will continue to strengthen the infrastructure and tooling around bringing Vulkan capabilities to multiple Metal and DX12 platforms. A long-term goal is to enable portable Vulkan code to be executed on any platform that developers care about. With actually most of the low-level apps, there's a lot of crossover. So what Khronos is striving for here is very simple with its Vulkan Portability initiative. What they're hoping for is that developers can create a single Vulkan portable application, so that would be a game or perhaps a game engine, and then that can be deployable on Vulkan itself, or DX12, or Metal, with minimal work from the developers. Now, there is, as I said, going to be a lot more on this over the next week or two when the interview's taken place. I will also say that if you search for Neil Trevitt on the channel, so Neil Trevitt, Red Gaming Tech, you will see a couple of recent interviews with him. We actually discussed the Vulkan Portability initiative quite extensively in the last interview, so if you are interested in that, then by all means, by golly gosh, go ahead and check that out. Anyway, let's finish off with the last piece of news for today, which is, once again, another Apple-related thing, and this one concerns the iPhone X. So, it's fair to say that the iPhone X didn't quite reach the level of sales that perhaps many had predicted. And by many, I especially mean Apple. And so, we see Bloomberg running with the story that we're going to be seeing 3 different models of the iPhone released in 2018. So Apple actually missed the predicted number of iPhones sold in the final quarter of 2017. They had expected from analysts to sell 80 million, 80.2 to be precise, and instead they were about 3 million short. And some of the reason behind this was pretty simple. The price. You're charging $1,000 for a phone. Even if you're a die-hard enthusiast, it's hard to justify that amount of cash, even if you're fairly affluent. So the main release, that we're going to be discussing is the iPhone X Plus. So it has the same screen size as the iPhone 8 Plus, but, excuse me, I just misspoke. I meant to say that the size is going to be about the same as the iPhone 8 Plus, but the screen itself is going to be slightly larger. It's going to feature a 6.5-inch display, and according to Bloomberg, the resolution is going to be fairly impressive. It's still going to be an OLED display, and it's going to be running with a pixel count of 2688 by 1242. There's also going to be an Apple iPhone X, which will support dual SIMs, and essentially they want to produce a cheaper phone, very similar to what they did back with, let's say, the iPhone 6. The screen is going to have more in common with the iPhone 8. It's going to use the cheaper screen technology, LCD, and it's going to have aluminum edges and glass back like the iPhone 8. So I guess the key takeaway here is essentially they're trying to produce a product for different markets and different price ranges. They're going for the phablet market all the way down to the cheaper market, which essentially means that they've got a wider gamut of individuals that they can sell for. They've not mentioned by Bloomberg, by the way, what the price is going to be, but let's face it, the iPhone X Plus is probably going to be more expensive than the $1,000 that they're currently asking for the iPhone X, unless they can somehow bring the prices down, which is not too likely. Also, it's worth noting that Bloomberg do point out that Apple have tried selling cheaper phones in the past. Back in 2013, which was, by the way, when the iPhone 5C was released, it was about $100 cheaper than the iPhone 5S. But unfortunately, customers were not too impressed by it, because for those extra $100, you got a slow motion video camera, you got a fingerprint sensor and some other features as well. So in that instance, they quickly discontinued the 5C. So obviously there's got to be a substantial price difference or a feature set difference for them really to be able to sell the cheaper model. With all of that said, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. Normal stuff, like, share, comment, subscribe. I shall see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.